police, and I'm going to be fairly expletive here, so if you have kids and that makes you uncomfortable, might want to step back. Because I want to add to that, it's not just fuck the police anymore, it's fuck the FBI too. Because they decided, as I was sleeping at 6 o'clock in the morning, to break into my house, kick in my door, point guns at me, and threaten to shoot me if I didn't stop moving. And all of this over white-collar crime. So the FBI agent out there, because I know you're fucking here, you've been watching me for 2 fucking years. Fuck you! Can you go through the video for me, please, Lexi? And it's not going to play, of course it doesn't. Yeah, just go on to the next one. So, for those of you who don't know who the Crypto Six are, on March the 16th of this year, a joint government task force, including the FBI, the US Postal Service, the IRS, and several other agencies, came at myself, Ian Freeman, Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, Renee and Andy Spinella, and Colleen Fordham, accusing us of basically being this libertarian Bitcoin mafia. And of course, there's nothing in this that suggests any sort of violent activity, yet they responded to this by taking a bearcat in through the door of the studio, breaking out the windows, and sending a fucking drone in. Because they were just that scared of the power of cryptocurrency, that scared of the power of libertarians who are actually making a difference. Now, the case in itself is very complex. The trial is currently set for May of 2022, but it's far more likely going to be something like October of 2022. There's something like 100,000 pages of discovery. They spent years and millions of dollars on this bullshit. Can we go to the next one, please? So it's primarily, a dark shadow hangs over this entire question for me, to be honest. There's nowhere else on earth I would rather be, but there's someone missing. And that's Ian fucking Freeman. They wouldn't even, this is my best friend for the last 3 years, and they won't even let me to have contact with him. Can you go to the next one? So people ask, yes, this is a major thing, I'm glad I had this, because I would have forgotten it. People keep asking, every time I talk about this, well, what did you do? What did you do? We got raided. That's what we did. This whole presumption of guilt that you have, that because the FBI raided me, I must have been doing something to warrant it, that's called assuming people are guilty without a trial. So you ask what we did? We got fucking raided at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can you go to the next one? The case isn't important. Yeah, go on to the next one. I forgot that. So, the Chinese government, allegedly, I realize there's a lot of confusion about what they're actually doing, but they're taking what you would expect the Chinese government to do as their approach. They're attempting to ban the use of cryptocurrency in China, or, that's what the FUD is anyway. I don't know to what extent any of that is true, but the United States government is fucking smarter than that. They've been at this for a very long time. The US government invented fascism. They're the best at it. They have complete and total control of our economy because they control the money supply. And as long as they control the money supply, and they have the licenses and the regulations and all of that, there's nothing you can do in the United States that isn't licensed or regulated by the US government. And more often than not, because they're a fascist regime, they take corporations like Coinbase and Kraken, Binance, Gemini, all of these other cryptocurrency exchanges, and they have them create the rules, create the regulations. And the US government then comes along and just says, okay, yeah, we're going to adopt yours, but we're requiring you to jump through all of these hoops, and you're going to basically enforce the law for us. Because there aren't any real laws regarding cryptocurrency, which is why the Crypto 6 case is so important. One of the things it's going to do is make the federal government determine whether or not cryptocurrency is an asset or a currency. The IRS right now wants to treat it like an asset. Meanwhile, the courts are repeatedly saying, no, you can't treat it like an asset. Bitcoin is money. Well, make up your fucking mind. Because this ambiguity you have is only serving the state, and it only weaponizes the cryptocurrency against us. Can you go to the next one, please? Yeah, go ahead, skip that one as well. So the state already has control over everything we say or do. You can't drive without having a regulated vehicle, without having a driver's license. You can't make a purchase with a bank without stepping through all of their hoops. Have you ever actually dealt with a bank when you try to withdraw your life savings or something like that? They want to know exactly what you want to do with your money. And if they don't like the reasons, they're going to hold your money. Banks freeze people money, they don't care, because it's not your money once you give it to them, it's theirs. And they know that. And that's why cryptocurrency is so important, because it's actually your money. As long as you keep it in the Edge wallet or Exodus wallet or a non-custodial wallet. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, next one again, please. I already went over that. So, if you've ever dealt with banks, you know what a pain in the ass they are. I mean, they're evil. They created the 2007 recession, and this is the reason that Bitcoin exists. As Satoshi Nakamoto made it clear in his early newsletters, hey, the banks are fucked up. They're trying to basically destroy the economy and turn everyone into serfs, and they're doing really good about that. They lie, they cheat, they steal. Wells Fargo in 2018, I believe, was busted opening up new accounts in existing customers' names. And there was no consequence for that. They weren't punished for that. The federal government didn't do anything to them for that because Wells Fargo plays ball with the American government. They lie and they cheat. And that's the hallmarks of the banks. And you know, they keep your money. Can you go to the next one? So what we're looking at here is really a nightmare of a future where you can't be an ordinary individual transacting in cryptocurrency without going through Coinbase, Gemini, or Kraken. And this is a dystopian nightmare. The US government doesn't like little people, doesn't like people who aren't registered, who aren't jumping through all of their know your customer hoops, who aren't abiding by FinCEN regulations and all of that to be distributing Bitcoin because they can't control us. They can't control the Bitcoin vending machines that were confiscated, stolen in New Hampshire. So, they don't like it. JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all of these major banks, they've had the infrastructure in place for at least as long as I've lived, where they ultimately enforce the government's regulations about FinCEN and the Patriot Act and the anti-terrorism nonsense so that the federal government doesn't actually have to. And now we have this cartel of Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, all of these others who are coming together to create this sort of good faith standards for regulating cryptocurrency that they're putting to the federal government. They made it clear they're going to play ball with the federal government. Coinbase will turn over all of your information to the IRS if they want to, so will Kraken, so will Gemini. They want to be in the new banks in the cryptocurrency world. They want to force you, if you want cryptocurrency, you have to go through Coinbase to get it. That's why they hate local Bitcoins as well, because it provides you with an escape route so that you don't have to go through one of these evil institutions, one of the new cryptocurrency banks, which is exactly what Coinbase, Kraken, and Gemini want to be. Can you go to the next one? So there are rumors, right, and I don't know to what extent these are true, that the federal government wants to ban non-custodial wallets. This is where you control your keys, so you control your cryptocurrency. I don't know to what extent this is true, but they certainly have the power. They really want to prohibit these non-custodial wallets from being on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store or on the Microsoft Store. There will always still be ways around them, but to the average person, they will just say, oh no, it's illegal for me to have the Edge wallet or the Exodus wallet or whatever. And it's because they can't control that. But what they can do, once they take out the Crypto 6 and local Bitcoins and everyone else out there who's trying to provide people with a way to transact freely without having the government up their asses, once they've achieved that, and you have to go through Coinbase, Kraken, or one of these other cryptocurrency exchanges to get your cryptocurrency, assuming they successfully get people to not use non-custodial wallets, then you have to deal with Coinbase. I don't know if you've ever tried to withdraw cryptocurrency from Coinbase, but they operate on a schedule, and if you want to withdraw too much, they demand to know why. What are you doing with this cryptocurrency? Where did the money that you used to buy this cryptocurrency come from? We need to know all of these things, just like if you went to fucking Wells Fargo and wanted to withdraw your money. The infrastructure for these cryptocurrency exchanges to do this is already in place. All they have to do is take out the little people. All they have to do is take out local Bitcoins and the Bitcoin vending machines, and just like that, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, they run the fucking cryptocurrency world. And if you want cryptocurrency, you have to go through them. And if you want to withdraw to an off-site wallet, you're going to have to jump through their hoops and explain exactly why. They're going to want to know, whose private wallet is this? Is this your wallet? Are you making a purchase? What are you buying? Is it legal? Is it regulated? Have you jumped through Vincent's fucking hoops? Can you go to the next one? I believe this is where we're going, where if you want to have a private wallet, you have to register it with FinCEN or the state or some other government agency so that they know on the record, this is your cryptocurrency wallet. And if you don't do that, then Coinbase or Kraken or whatever won't let you withdraw to that wallet. Next one, please. And that's the scariest part of all of this, is that if If they have all of the cryptocurrency, they don't have it all, but they do have a lot of it. And if they have the only method that we have of obtaining cryptocurrency at their disposal, then they control whether or not you have cryptocurrency. Next one, please. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see we have blocked your transaction. Cryptocurrency exchanges doing the work of the federal government because they want to know. They want to make sure that you jumped through the fence and hoops. Your withdrawal of Bitcoin could not be approved. And this one, the one in the upper right, for those who have actually dealt in fairly large quantities of cryptocurrency, your account is suspended. You can't withdraw your cryptocurrency. We'll let you know when we decided to release your cryptocurrency to you. It may be 6 months from now, it may be a year from now, it may be 3 days. We don't know, we'll get to you when we get to you, but you're not important to us and we don't really care what the hell you think. Go to the next one, please. So as I was saying, this infrastructure is already in place. What they're doing with the Crypto 6 is they're alleging that we were operating an unlicensed money transmitting business, where there were multiple transmitting businesses in place. It's all very confusing and very weird, and it's not very important. But that's what they're accusing us of doing, because in theory, a person could go to one of the Bitcoin vending machines that were in Keene, insert some cash, and get cryptocurrency sent to them. Just like if you went to a vending machine and you bought a candy bar. Somehow they decided that that activity is money transmission. They also point to local Bitcoins as a problematic entity in that it allows people, the average person who has Bitcoin, to go online and find a buyer. So it's, okay, you have 100 Bitcoins you want to get rid of, find a buyer to buy it. Or if you want to acquire Bitcoin, go to local Bitcoins. They hate that because your local Bitcoin's seller or buyer isn't likely to jump through the government's hoops. And if they do require any sort of KYC, which is know your customer, your ID, or a note proving you are who you say you are, then it's just to protect their own assets from fraud. Because there's a lot of fraud in the cryptocurrency world. Next one, please. Oh, that's the end of that. Okay, no problem. So, local Bitcoin sellers and people who are just trying to offload their Bitcoin, they often do require KYC compliance, but it's not because they're turning that information over to FinCEN, it's because they know that there's a lot of fraud in the cryptocurrency world. If someone wants to buy Bitcoin from you, you kind of need to know that that transaction isn't going to be reversed. So that's one of the major pitfalls of USD, is that it's really easy to reverse a banking transaction. With cryptocurrency, it's immutable. Once you make that Bitcoin transaction, it can't be undone. And this creates risks to sellers out there, obviously. So what the federal government is trying to do here is to take the fascist approach. Unlike China, who wants to just ban cryptocurrency altogether, the US government knows it's already lost that battle. And that's why it's talking to Facebook about its Libra cryptocurrency, because it wants to know that Libra, or Facebook, is going to play ball with their regulations. And if they're not, then they're not going to allow them to proceed with Libra. But obviously it's Facebook and they're going to play ball because that's what Zuckerberg does. In the end, ultimately, what we have to do is keep cryptocurrency beyond the reach of the federal government. And they know they can't directly control it. There's too many cryptocurrencies out there, there's too many different wallets, but they don't have to actually directly control cryptocurrency in order to control cryptocurrency. All they have to do is control Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, these popular Bitcoin exchanges that people have to go to get cryptocurrency after they've taken out local Bitcoins and other sellers around the world because they can't control them. It's all about control. And to secure their control, I want you to imagine, March the 16th, I worked a night shift job. Well, it was a late shift job. So I would get home around 3 o'clock in the morning, I would have a few drinks, then go to bed. 2 hours later, I hear a fuckload of noise coming from downstairs. No idea what's going on. There's been some construction on my house throughout the last year. I assumed it was just those idiots down there making a lot of noise. No, I came running down the stairs wearing a pair of underwear with a throw blanket around me. And there's the FBI with guns pointed at me, riot shields and flashlights saying, "Aria, stop moving or we will open fire." 6 o'clock in the morning over the whitest of all white, operating an unlicensed business was the charge. And for that, they threatened to shoot me in my house. But I got it easy. They forced poor Bonnie naked to put on a pair of shoes that had glass inside them. These were monsters. They were evil. And these are the people trying to run the world. We have to stop them. Are there any questions? No?
I'm wondering, and I'm aware of it because I follow these online, but I've seen very little of it covered in like the crypto community, like the Reddit and Bitcoin or anything. Do you have any ideas on why this is other
I've been curious about that as myself. As far as I can tell, the only real coverage of the Crypto 6 has come from Free Talk Live, which is the show that you can find it at freetalklive.com. But Bitcoin.com hasn't talked about it. From what we can gather, it's because what's happening with us isn't unique. This is happening all across the United States, and the cryptocurrency news outlets are just overwhelmed with stories like ours. It's a multi-pronged approach. I think it was Jeremy Kaufman of Library was just here. The federal government is going after Library for the same reason they're going after us, because they don't like anything they can't control. And they want to find a way to put cryptocurrency under their control. So it's not just us that are being targeted by this. From what we can tell, it's happening in all 50 states throughout the United States, and probably around the world, because the federal government doesn't know what the fuck jurisdiction is. Any other questions? Yes. Go ahead.
I'm new to the space, and I have no idea what workarounds we have to negotiate this. What options do we have aside from what we talked about today?
You mean as far as acquiring
it,
right?
Custodian it, transacting, all those things.
Sure.
Technology.
Well, it's a difficult question, right? If you, everyone here probably has some amount of cryptocurrency, but let's just say you're living in Arkansas or Wyoming or wherever, and you want to buy some cryptocurrency. Well, how are you going to go about that? More than likely, you're going to Google how to buy cryptocurrency. You're going to end up at Coinbase or Kraken, and they're going to ask for your ID. They're going to want to know the source of the funds and all of this other nonsense. If you're more knowledgeable on the subject, you may choose something like localbitcoins.com, which is where you can buy Bitcoin in particular, or local.bitcoin.com if you want Bitcoin Cash, or localmonero.co if you want Monero. There are outlets at present for people to acquire and sell cryptocurrency. Local Bitcoins is probably the most prominent, but it's probable that they're going to cease activity in the United States in the near future. Anyway, they've already got rid of meeting in cash in person trades because the US government came after them and said, hey, we can't monitor this. When people are meeting out in public places to transfer cash and cryptocurrency, there's no digital records, so stop doing this. And local Bitcoins went, okay, fine, we'll stop doing that. But there's still Agora Desk, which is I think it's on the dark web. It's a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange. And it's not decentralized, sorry. But there are decentralized cryptocurrency exchanges like DEX and AirSwap, I think still exists. The federal government wants to close these back doors. They want to close these alternative methods of people to acquire and sell cryptocurrency because they can't control them. And that's why they raided us. That's why they arrested us, and that's why they're charging us. If they succeed here and in the other districts that they're trying this shit, cryptocurrency becomes the property of Coinbase. It becomes, by extension, the property of the federal government. Someone else had a question? Yeah.
I've called Free Talk Live quite a bit. I've heard Ian say that he knew that he was under investigation.
That's correct. Ian did know that he had very good reason to believe that he was under investigation. And that's why when the prosecutors attempted to hold him in jail until trial, which by the way is almost a year out at minimum, it's probably more like 18 months, that was one of the arguments that his attorney put forward, that he knew he was under investigation. If he wanted to run from this, he had 5 years of investigative evidence that he could have just left and gone to Japan or wherever, but he didn't. But they wanted to paint him as a flight risk, obviously, because they wanted to keep him. But yes, Ian knew that he was being investigated by the FBI.
Was it a surprise, or did it kind of shocking?
Well, sure. Well, Ian knew that he was being investigated. I didn't know that I was being investigated, certainly. The timing of it was very much a surprise to him. Even if he knew he was being investigated, he didn't know, hey, this is the day they're going to fucking drive a Bearcat through my front door or drive a drone in through the window. So knowing that you're being investigated, all of this could have been handled by just showing up at our door at a decent hour with a search warrant saying, hey, you're under arrest and we're going to search your property. But the level of violence that was used against us was a surprise to everyone. No one expected that.
So, have you tried to reach out to some of the Liberty influencers here, like Tom Woods and David Smith, to talk about the case?
Yeah, Tom Woods actually reached out to me a few weeks ago. Well, it was a few weeks after I got out of jail, actually. And my attorney then was advising me not to talk about the case. And as I continued doing Free Talk Live, I found out ways that I could talk about what is happening without actually talking about the case. So I initially declined the invitation from Tom Woods and some of the others, but I'm now looking into fulfilling those interviews and stuff. You had a question?
The international nature of crypto, the U.S. federal government can shut it down, but I'm also curious to know what options you've looked into as far as second citizenship is concerned. You know, for example, Roger Ver is no longer an American. He's not stupid. He told America to go fuck itself, and who can blame him? Good for Roger Ver.
Yeah, definitely good for Roger Ver. What he did was smart. I didn't know I was being investigated, or we're kind of stupid in King, right, to be honest, because King PD has been following me around for the better part of my entire life in New Hampshire. And they're documented doing this. They've been stalking me for the better part of at least 2 years. And none of us went, hey man, this shit's fucking weird. We should get out of here. So, yeah, we're kind of stupid.
First of all, we're always, all of us, being investigated. You just really more pointed than others. The second thing is, if you did win in the sheriff's race, could you be more of a constitutional sheriff saying if those federal agents show up in your county, you're going to put them in jail? So some have done that.
Yes, and that was actually one of my platforms, was that, the FBI would not have arrested Christopher Cantwell if I had been sheriff. I'm a fan of Christopher Cantwell, but keep the feds the fuck out of New Hampshire. Keep them out of Cheshire County. They certainly wouldn't have arrested me if I was sheriff.
We definitely don't want to see you guys leave because we need help here to get our country back to what it's supposed to be. But my question is, what can we do to help you? I mean, I've gone with a few other people and protested in federal buildings. We're going to show up for the trial if they let us in. So what can we do?
You can go to thecrypto6.com. There are a number of ways there that you can help. There's financial contributions and all of that awesome stuff. And if somebody wants to do that, that's fantastic. But the biggest thing that has helped any of us is just knowing that we have a massive, I don't want to use the word army because the federal government is crazy and there's an FBI agent out there, but we have a libertarian mass at our disposal that is standing with us. They may not be the ones in the crosshairs here, but they're with us 1,000%. And just knowing that gives us all strength to continue fighting the battle against the federal government. So that would be the best way. I mean, Rich Paul, for example, is still being held in jail. There's a link on the Crypto6 website where you can write to him and just let him know that you support him. That's probably the best thing that anyone can do to help the Crypto6. And that's at freethecrypto6.com or thecrypto6.com. Number or spell it out, it doesn't matter. Were there any other questions?
Hi, are there any more developed nations that are still allowing private wallets?
Are there any? Repeat it for me, please.
Any more like actual developed nations, like somewhat like the US, more established countries that allow private wallets? Or are most nations kind of doing this now?
I'm not sure. I mean, in the United States, you can still have a private wallet right now. And I've heard rumors that they intend to change that, and I don't know to what extent they really can change that, except telling Google or Apple, hey, stop providing people with private wallets, and it just creates more hoops for the average person to jump through in order to get their own actual keys. And the average person is already fairly clueless about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, doesn't even know what a non-custodial wallet is, so they're likely to just keep their Bitcoin on Coinbase or whatever, simply because they don't fucking know any better.
So it seems like one of the main problems is that they already control the fiat currency and they control the on-ramps. So if people actually traded with cryptocurrency for goods, then we could sort of like bypass this exchange problem. So what are your thoughts on on ways to like accelerate the collapse of fiat instead of trying to like work around these exchanges?
Certainly. Well, there was an awesome app that existed for years here in New Hampshire out of Portsmouth and King called AnyPay. And it allowed people to spend cryptocurrency at brick and mortar businesses. There are still things like BitPay and Purse.io that allow you to make purchases on Amazon using cryptocurrency. But you still have to have cryptocurrency in order to spend it, right? Otherwise, you're just getting rid of your cryptocurrency and not replenishing it. In an ideal world, your employer would just pay you in cryptocurrency, you would pay your bills and your living needs in cryptocurrency, and no one would think anything about it. But and maybe that's in the future. I would love for that to be the future. But as it stands, you have to be able to turn USD into cryptocurrency and vice versa, even in Keene, New Hampshire, which it's got the highest number of cryptocurrency accepting businesses per capita in the fucking world. Even there, you have to have USD.
So I think that a lot of us in this room believe that if there's an unjust law on the system, it's your duty to break it. That being said, you know, I'm sure that you've gone through a lot during this process. If you could go back in time, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would have done different?
I would have gone to Guatemala on March the 15th. But no, any libertarian or anarchist knows when they start taking up, you know, an ideological fight against the greatest evil machinery in the history of humanity, which is the state, that it's going to fight back. And you shouldn't take up the fight if you don't want to risk those consequences. So I knew going into it that the FBI was going to get pissed off at me. And let them do what they're going to do, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And eventually, in a fair world, I would win out in court. But of course, this isn't a fair world.
Suppose someone does have things on Coinbase or wherever. What's your best advice for getting the fuck out before the lockdown?
Withdraw the cryptocurrency into something like Exodus Wallet or the Edge Wallet. They're both really good wallets. I prefer the Exodus Wallet simply because it's more accessible. It has both a Windows, Android, and Linux version, thank you. I had to look at him to remember the word Linux.
So the FBI raided you guys like 3-4 years ago, and it seems like they have a vendetta against Free Talk Live. Do you think that the FBI has a vendetta? They're out to get you guys like completely?
This brings back my point earlier about people ask, when I tell people that we got raided or when they find out about it, their number one question is always, well, what did you do, right? I don't know why anyone would trust the FBI raiding a place as being evidence of that place's guilt or those people's guilt. The FBI raided us like 3 or 4 years ago over some bullshit child porn charges, and nothing ever fucking happened with that because, of course, there was no child porn. The FBI was pissed off because we broke the story that in 2016, the FBI was the largest child porn distributor on the fucking planet. And they weren't very happy about that. So they raided us, and of course they found nothing. A lot of the shit that they stole is now being returned. And we expect that to arrive within the next few months because there was never any case there was never any evidence there, they were just pissed off. So at best, we're dealing with an institution here that has already raided us and is batting 0. Why would anyone presume that someone who is being raided by the FBI is guilty when they're batting 0?
That's the third key FBI investigation.
The third?
There was one in 2012 over small-time drug dealing where Richmond, the prison program.
I didn't know the FBI was involved with that. But
There's a whole thing that was done here on that.
okay.
Yeah, they were the reason that the arrest occurred in the first place.
Which arrest?
The drug dealing was a second operation.
Okay.
Not even for a liar to the campus.
Yeah, I recall that. He refused to do it, and he's Rich Paul, so he's got a loud mouth. He basically confessed to the crime on the on the steps of the courthouse to the media right before his trial. Like I said, we're kind of stupid in Keene, right? Our hearts are in the right place, but we're dumb as hell. But yeah, I wasn't here for that, but I do know that they did a sting operation, got him for dealing drugs, and they wanted him to wear a wire into what was then the Keene Activist Center, which essentially part of the Free Talk Live studio. and try to incriminate someone, incite them into saying they wanted violence against the government or violence against the police or whatever, and he refused to do it, and ended up serving like a year in jail because of it. Were there any other questions?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Celsius wallet?
I would have to look into it. I've never used the Celsius wallet, so I have no idea. Anyone else? Yeah.
Same question about Ledger.
About what?
Ledger wallet?
I've also never used the Ledger wallet. Like I said, I prefer the Edge wallet and the Exodus wallet, primarily the Exodus wallet, simply because it's more flexible. Definitely avoid the Konami wallet, though, because their security people are fucking stupid, like dumber than we are in King. Because when you installed the Konami wallet on a desktop, it sent your recovery passphrase to Google unencrypted in order for Google to spell check it. And because of that, a lot of people had their cryptocurrency stolen. Because they just saw the text string coming in and they knew what it was because it was just these 26 random letters and they plugged it into a wallet. Oh look, here's someone's cryptocurrency. Well, it's mine now because these fucking idiots at Konami gave me their private keys. So avoid Konami. Other than that, Edge, Exodus. Most wallets are pretty good, but you do have ones like Coinbase that make very stupid decisions sometimes, and you can lose your money as a result. Edge, however, is open source, and that's one of the strongest benefits. It does. It supports BitPay and AnyPay protocols as well. Of course, I don't know what the deal is with AnyPay, but I assume their software still works for the people who are out there using it. Any other questions? Yeah?
How do you feel about the Trezor?
About what?
Trezor, the Trezor wallet.
Oh, I don't know. My experience is limited to Konami, Edge, and Exodus. I wish I was more experienced with wallets, but when I find one that does what I want it to do, I just sort of stick with it. So I haven't used, there's thousands of wallets out there, and I haven't used 1% of them.
But Ledger and Trezor are hardware wallets. So you actually have physical
Okay.
with access to your phone.
Well, hardware wallets are definitely great, right? Because then the FBI can't just come in and take your phone and have your cryptocurrency. But this was one of the weirder parts of the raid, was when they asked me to text message someone, they brought me my phone to do it, so, I hit my phone and entered whatever I needed to enter to unlock it, and they immediately tried to take it from me. So I hit the power button, put it right back, locked it back. And one of the agents said, oh, well, that's fine, it's just facial recognition, right? No, you fucking, do you know me? Sadly, someone involved in all of this was using facial recognition, but there was also nothing important on that phone in the first place. But their warrant allowed them to compel us to use facial recognition or thumbprint technology, whatever, biometrics, in order to unlock our devices. And the FBI agent said to me, well, here's the thing, you can either unlock it or we can compel you to unlock it. To which I said, well, you're just going to have to compel me. And that was the end of it. You got a question?
I think that's Aria. There was a story that a certain amount of Bitcoin was seized from Ian because he had a physical connection to the internet. And I heard that were allowed to access your cryptocurrency as part of the show. Do you have any idea how much cryptocurrency they already managed?
I have a general idea because these documents are publicly available online on Court Listener or on Recap, whichever one you prefer. I think they're intertwined somehow, I don't exactly know. But they did file a notice of forfeiture regarding the property they seized from Ian, and among those it was 2 100 Bitcoin, I don't remember the exact, Ciscada coins or something like that had 100 Bitcoin and 100 Bitcoin Cash private keys inside the coins. They took 2 of those, they took 1 or 2 that had 10 Bitcoin and 10 Bitcoin Cash. So they took, at minimum, 200 Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash from Ian. And I don't know whether or not they got any of mine. I know they didn't get most of it because it's locked in passwords inside my head and not stored anywhere else. But they did get at least 200 Bitcoins. A huge fucking sum of money at the time. And of course, they immediately according to the notice, they immediately transferred it to wallets that they control anyway. So who knows what's going to happen with it. Evidently, if they win the case, everyone forfeits pretty much everything they own, according to the notice of forfeiture. So it's fucked up, and they managed to steal 200 Bitcoins from a friend of mine and then refused to allow me to have contact with this friend of mine until yesterday afternoon, in fact. But hey, yeah, we finally have contact with him. That's been fucking great. Were there any additional? Yes?
Any update on nobody?
All I know is what's been filed publicly on Recap or Pacer, which is that the federal government objects to his release, basically because they think he's dangerous because, like I said, we're not too bright and keen, and Rich was on the jail phone running his mouth about how it's time to start shooting pigs and it's time for the boogaloo, and just making a series of very poor decisions on what he was going to talk about. Like I said, we're kind of stupid and keen. And those are the reasons the government is giving for seeking to detain him, as well as the fact that they found some drugs in his property, and presumably in his possession. Like, look, we're not charging him with this, by the way, but we found drugs. We totally found drugs. And obviously the reason they're not charging him with it is because any drugs that they may or may not have found aren't related to the warrant that they were executing, so it would be inadmissible as evidence. But the latest I have on him is that his attorneys have requested a hearing before the judge. I didn't know how any of this nonsense worked until, after March the 16th, but you get put in front of this magistrate who is kind of, sort of a judge, but not really a judge. They're like the lower echelon of judges. And from what I can tell, they just side with whatever the prosecutors want, which isn't surprising. I mean, they're all on the same team here, and I've had to correct my attorney repeatedly about this because he characterizes the prosecutors as being, quote, the government, and he calls the judge the court. And what I want him to understand before we fight this battle is, sure, they're the court and they're the government, but they're all the fucking government. The judge, the magistrates, the prosecutors, the police, the FBI, the USPS, they're all on the same fucking team here, man. Even you're on their team because you're registered with their bar association. There's no way to fight them without being on their fucking team. But the latest I have from Rich Paul, or nobody, is that there is a hearing before the judge that is, I don't think it's been scheduled yet. And hopefully he'll be released after that hearing. But they like to drag things out. I mean, it took the magistrate something like 21 days to sign something, and all she had to do was sign it. So they like taking their time with things. Any other questions? Yes? I don't know the answer to that. Chris is shaking his head no. You can write him a letter though, which is probably the next best thing. You can find out how to do that on thecrypto6.com. I know he would appreciate it because you can't just cage people and expect everything to be fine. I mean, he's likely pacing his cell like a tiger in a fucking zoo, losing his mind, which is causing him to say stupid shit like, it's time to start shooting pigs on the jail phone. So a letter of support for him would be fantastic. That's what I would encourage everyone to do. And write to Ross Ulbricht while you're at it. Well, thank you so much for coming out today. I hope I lived up to your expectations.